Hey, what's up guys? This is Brad with Osan Fitness and today is Tuesday, February 26th. I just got done pulling a 24-hour shifts on staff duty. It's a fun little thing that sometimes we got to do in the Army. Basically stay awake for 24 hours and watch a series of buildings and areas and make sure nobody does dumb shit, because people like doing dumb shit. But at any rate, I'm off that duty now, and basically have today, Tuesday, off as kind of a recovery day to rest and recuperate, and then get myself ready to get back to normal, normal duty starting tomorrow. And the interaction on the channel lately has been amazing. Well, I can't really say that. The interaction on the channel has been amazing from word go. So that is awesome. And I really appreciate and look forward to the opportunities to be able to interact and engage with some of you directly. And I'm actually really astonished at some of the reactions that I get from you guys based on kind of what I'm doing. And one of the comments that's really surprised me lately is how some of you guys are surprised at my willingness to engage directly with certain viewers. And I don't know how other people run their channels, or I'm not really terribly familiar with chat dialogue for other people's channels and videos, or how they tend to do things. But I know that for me, I really enjoy it, and I feel like it's also one of the biggest draws to my channel is my accessibility and availability to be able to respond directly. I would imagine if you're writing somebody that's got 100,000 subscribers or 200,000 subscribers or whatever else, they probably don't have enough hours in the day to respond to all the comments and stuff that they get. Luckily enough, I'm small enough where I can, and as I've said before, my wholehearted intention is to respond to everybody for as long as I can possibly sustain, until it becomes kind of untenable and I can't manage it anymore, which would be an absolute blessing, really. But until that day comes, I'm going to continue to respond to people. So I have a few comments that have come through recently that I think are worthy of, not even just worthy, I think that they're best served as a direct response, me talking to the camera, me talking directly to you, because you took the time to ask the question, and I think that a verbal video response is probably the most appropriate. So we're going to get into a few of these questions as I maneuver around the barracks area and try to demonstrate and emphasize what it is I'm trying to say to answer these questions. So let's get into it. First off, I've got a few comments and questions about the mustache, and I think I've mentioned it a couple of places here and there, but I've never in my adult life attempted to grow a mustache. I've always just grown the beard, and then as a joke, when I shave my beard, I'll leave the mustache just to irk the wife off. So the wife hates the mustache. I am just kind of having some fun and growing this out. Really it's out of boredom, just to do something. And so day by day I can kind of see this change, and it tends to drive the wife nuts. So it's just kind of a fun little thing for me to do. I don't really intend on keeping it forever, but it's just something fun to do. You may also wonder what's up with the bandana, and it's more just nostalgia. Back when I was a kid, it was like a thing to tie the bandana on. Doesn't really mean anything other than just pure freaking nostalgia. Anyway, so here we are. I'm downstairs. This is actually in my barracks area, which is pretty cool. Never really seen a barracks with a built-in gym, and it's got quite a lot of bumper plates, so you can really only fit about 405 or so onto the bar. But bench, squat rack, some rows, things like that, some kettlebells. So all things considered, not a bad gig, especially for being right downstairs. So I mentioned I want to get into some questions and stuff. I had a few that I just visually kind of earmarked, but I have my little thing here, my phone, looking through the questions on my channel, and I'm just going to kind of scroll around and grab a few questions here that I think are just kind of important to touch on. So in my video about prong or lever, Gary Sellers talks about how he goes beltless because he doesn't own one. So if you're going beltless, and this is for everyone, if you're going beltless because you don't own a belt, I would say okay. But if you take your lifting seriously and you want to try to be the better or best version of yourself or a better version of yourself rather, I would absolutely recommend getting a belt. If you're going to invest in your fitness, I think a belt is probably one of the first things that you should look at getting, because it helps. And studies indicate that you get better muscle interaction, or better muscle activation rather, with a belt on than without a belt. So when people ask me about me going beltless, the answer is freaking never. The only time I'm going beltless is when I'm just warming up. And anytime I go up over 50% on really any of my maneuvers, I have a belt on, because you get better muscle activation with the belt on, therefore, better muscle stimulus, therefore better growth. So that's my response to the whole beltless thing, because I had a few questions in there. So if you're going beltless because you don't have a belt, so be it. But if you're going beltless just to try to prove a point or whatever, I really don't advocate that. Okay, so a couple people did comment about the SBD belt, and if you look in the comment section of my video for prong or lever, I actually state I'm aware that there's the SBD belt is adjustable, unlike any other type of lever belt. But that particular belt is usually a little bit beyond most people's price point, so I didn't even bother to talk about it, and I said so explicitly. So I am tracking that belt, and definitely tracking that, it has its benefits and all that other stuff. Little comment here from another viewer, Brian Weiss, just kind of congratulating me, or happy over the fact, all the direct interaction with the viewers. And Brian, you're welcome, and for all of you, I appreciate it. You guys are essentially kind of opening up your lives and inviting me into your life, by tuning into the videos that I make, and posting on my IG, and all that stuff. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to attempt to help you. I don't always know that when I create these things, or whatever it is that I'm doing, if it will or won't help. All that I'm eager about is the opportunity to try. And so maybe some of the things I say are super applicable to whatever it is you're going through. Then maybe some of the things that I say don't necessarily apply to your current situation, or aren't things that you're curious about. But I'm always just really excited about the opportunity to try to help. So Brian, you're very welcome for all the interaction with the viewers and you guys. I really do appreciate the opportunity. This is one of the questions that I had earmarked that I really wanted to get to. And this comes from Soy Labanban. So Soy, thank you very much for joining the channel. I appreciate you being here and tuning in and watching the videos. Soy's asking about squatting low bar, starting to get shoulder pain as I'm increasing weight. I've widened my grip and have read that experimenting with a talon grip may help with shoulder irritation, but it feels hella insecure. Can you provide any insights? Loving your channel. P.S. Nice of you to leave that note. I felt like it was less of a dick move to leave the note, so you're welcome. All right, so Soy, yeah. So what you're referring to in terms of the talon grip is this here, right? So gripping like this and grabbing like that, right? So it's one way to get, just a little bit of rotation. You get that like kind of external rotation on the hand, and so it can wrench on the shoulder a little bit less, right? So obviously going super tight, very can be very hard and stressful on the shoulder, and then as you open up your hand grip, it's less and less stressful. But balancing and stuff can be a bit of an issue. So one thing that I would recommend for you, Soy, is that when you do make changes, try to make changes slowly and incrementally, because if you change like 5 things about your squat all at once, it's gonna feel a little insecure because you're not used to it. So that's first and foremost. Now, in terms of the talon grip, feeling insecure, one thing that I could recommend a little bit is actually try to actively pull that bar down into your back. So instead of just letting that bar set, kind of perched precariously up on your shoulders, or however it is that you're holding the bar, I might actually recommend actively pulling it down into your back. And really, it's practice. There's some stuff that you could probably look to do shoulder mobility wise, right? So do some band distraction type exercise, and you can look that up specifically on YouTube. Banded shoulder distraction, stuff to warm up your shoulders and get your shoulders loose and limber. Because one thing is, if you're having shoulder pain, you haven't quite described what the pain is specifically, but I'm imagining that the pain that you're getting comes from kind of the lack of the mobility and having to wrench that arm back on the shoulder, and so the pain is probably somewhere here on the anterior portion of the shoulder. You know, if that's the case, working through some shoulder mobility exercises before you begin squatting may be super beneficial for you in loosening up that shoulder and abating some of the shoulder pain that you may be experiencing right now. So one of the first things that I would say is shoulder mobility. Limit the number of things that you change at once, and step into it kind of slow so that you have the ability to adapt to that new technique, and it doesn't feel so awkward or out of place. No, I'm not going to do any rowing. This is purely a prop. I'm just kind of sitting here because I like doing the butt scoot. All right, on to more questions. So we just answered Soy La Bonbon's question, I hope. And for all my responses, if it's not clear or I haven't answered the question or you'd like more detail, leave me another comment. I'll continue to respond and hopefully refine the answer so we get you guys feeling pretty solid about what it is that I'm telling you. Here's another question that I wanted to get to specifically. This is from my friend Simon Padmore. He says, it's always great to hear your advice, and I'm sure many will agree that you really do reach out on a personal level. Thanks, Simon, or Sharon, as I should say. You know what you did. Asking a question about squats. So he's 5'9", about 160 pounds, deadlift 1 rep max, 368, can do sets of 5 at 315, hit a 1 rep max with 392 on an axle deadlift in October, but squat is super far behind. I can hit sets of 5 on squat with 176. True 1 rep max is only 220. Question is it common to have such a gap between both of them? And then you add some more information, Simon, but it doesn't actually really add to the question, so I'm not going to bother reading it. And the answer is yes, man, it absolutely can. Where you are with your lifts, squat, bench, overhead press is a direct reflection of your approach toward training. So people are going to be, have different numbers naturally, based on, their own makeup and how they're raised and whatever else, right? So your numbers are really a direct reflection of your training approach and what you've done throughout your life to where you are right now. So if training your squat hasn't been a huge priority for you throughout life, it's probably not going to be requisite with, say, your deadlift or whatever, right? If you happen to do more deadlifting type maneuvers in your life, even whether purposefully or just by a consequence of existing, but you haven't really done much of the squat, it would make perfect sense that your squat and your deadlift aren't going to be super commiserate. But I would say that the power is there, or the core strength is there, right? So anybody that has a huge discrepancy between their squat and their deadlift, it's less of a strength issue per se, and probably more of a training and or technique type of an issue, where if we worked on your technique for one or either of the lifts, they would probably come up to be a little bit more commiserate with one another. I think generally most people, if they're kind of doing well-rounded training, their deadlifts and their squats should be pretty similar. Might be a little bit different if you're talking geared lifting versus raw lifting, but by and large, I feel like it's a lot of the same mechanisms doing the lifting, and so really there shouldn't be a huge disparity between your squat and your deadlift. But for you, where you are, based on your training and what you've done in your life, it may not be abnormal. I would say just look at bringing up your squat training, or whatever that lagging movement is. Bring up your training on that movement. Focus time and attention on performing that movement as proficiently as you can, and I think that your strength levels will rise to be commiserate with whatever that other lift is, whether we're talking squat or deadlift in your particular case as a viewer. That's what I think. I hope that helps. Okay, cool. So here's another question. This is from my man Gary Sellers. Gary wants to know about squats. Do I recommend high bar or low bar for a squat novice? Never knew there was such thing as a low bar, etc. So Gary, and for everyone else out there, I would think less in terms of them as two separate type of movements versus you have a higher bar position or a lower bar position. Because really, when we're talking about squats, from what's called a high bar to what's called a low bar, I mean, you're really only talking, you know, the difference of a few inches in placement on your back. And so I don't really think that that's enough to qualify them as like two separate type of lifts. Some of it has to do with personal preference and just kind of wherever it is that you happen to start in squatting and where you're getting used to it. Chad Wesley Smith likes to talk about how squatting with a high bar position is a great way to develop strength, and squatting with a low bar position is a great way to express strength. Squatting with that high bar position, you know, keeps that bar kind of more in line with your center of gravity. And so when you squat with high bar, you tend to have less anterior tilt, which tends to engage the posterior chain a little bit less. So it tends to be, you know, slightly more quad dominant than perhaps a low bar squat. And so in that sense, it's pretty good at developing strength because it keeps you in that more upright position. Also, you got to have that, you know, a lot of good core activation again to keep that torso upright, and you're less reliant on that posterior chain to kind of keep you locked in place. Low bar squat tends to do a little bit better at expressing strength because as you shift that bar a little bit lower, you're going to have a little bit more anterior tilt, which is going to draw in some of that posterior chain a little bit more effectively. So you're going to get a little bit more from the glutes and the spinal rector to kind of keep you in the movement. And so with that, it tends to, you know, engage a little bit more musculature. And so you'll find that most people perform the squat with more weight with a lower bar position than they do with a higher bar position. But everyone's different. You can see some really incredible lifters that are operating at a very high level, and they do predominantly a higher bar squat, even in competition. So in terms of squat position, I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axle about it. Moreover, I would just be concerned with being able to squat proficiently without any kind of imbalances, you know, hip shift wise, knee wise, things like that. And as long as you're performing the movement sufficiently, appropriately, and comfortably. You know, squatting, although it be a tough thing, it should not be an uncomfortable thing in terms of discomfort, pain, especially pain. If you're performing the movement in a way that creates imbalances, then of course you're probably going to have a lot of issues. So I would be, especially as a novice, I would be less concerned about your bar position in terms of, you know, fitting into some mold, high bar, low bar, you know, whatever. And I would be way more concerned about making sure that you're performing the movement well and without discomfort. That would be my recommendation for you guys. All right, guys, I think that is it. Gonna wrap this one down, probably long enough as it is. I really do relish the opportunity to be able to respond directly to your questions. So please keep those questions coming. If they pertain to the specific video that I've made, then great. But if you've just got some wild questions cooking in the back of your brain that you want to ask at some point in time, just fire away. You don't have to wait for a relevant video to ask me those questions, because I can always make a specific video just like this to be able to respond to you guys. And I actually kind of enjoy the process of looking through, reading the questions, taking into consideration what you guys are asking me, and then being able to make a specific video and say your name online to, you know, to all the viewers, to show my appreciation for you guys taking the time out of your day to let me into your life, to consider the things that I'm saying, and to provide me the opportunity to attempt to help you. So that's it, guys. I appreciate you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the chat box below. I will be sure to respond, either by just typing back at you or another video just like this. If you, if you have some more stuff, man, let me have it. I want to help. Definitely want to help. Appreciate you guys continuously tuning into the channel and you know, helping me grow. I appreciate you guys sharing the videos with friends and family. You know, obviously one of the biggest things is, you know, if you have some friends, just show them my videos. Hey man, check out this dude. I think he's pretty cool, or he's goofy, he's got a terrible mustache. However you want to phrase it, it's up to you. but just showing people my videos and introducing them to me is a huge benefit for me and for the channel, and really helps us grow. So I definitely appreciate that. Okay, guys, remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, you know, like abate some of that shoulder pain, or get comfortable in the high bar, low bar position, or whatever it is that is going on with you as you're attempting to pursue your training endeavors, you got to get in, you got to train despite. You're either going to find an excuse or you're going to find a way, and I hope that you guys continue to find the way. And I like helping you find the way, because that's kind of what I'm here for. That's it, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.